Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Reay, and I'm really pleased to be chatting to Liz Horobin about the Patoss Dyslexia Charity 2026 conference, Unlocking Potential from Universal Screening to Targeted Support. So, Liz, what can delegates and members expect from next year's conference?
Okay, well, that's a big question, but we'll start with the things that are going to stay the same because there are elements that will be familiar. We're keeping the same online platform, LetsGetDigital, because it's proved really popular in the past, and delegates, I think, have got used to using it. But one of the big changes this year is that all of the talks are going to be live on the day. And that is a big change because over the past few years, we've had lots of recorded talks. And part of the reason for that has been that many of our speakers have been based in the US or in another country. And so we haven't been able to match time zones, obviously. But this year, all of our speakers are UK based. And so all of our talks are live. And I think that will bring a certain immediacy to the day, which will be much more exciting.
Absolutely. And also interaction from the people who are watching the conference as well, which
Absolutely. Yeah.
so does that mean, so obviously in previous years we've had recorded sessions and
Mhm,
people had access to that for 3 weeks beforehand.
mhm.
Does that mean there won't be any recorded sessions available this year prior to the conference day?
No, we're not throwing that out completely, but we are taking into account the feedback that we've had from delegates. Now, people have said that they really appreciate the wealth of information that they've got from the pre-conference talks, but also they've commented on there being just too much information to access in advance. I think last year we had about 5 hours worth of pre-conference talks, and many people just didn't manage to access all of those. So that meant that when we had the panel discussions, people didn't feel prepared. They didn't feel that they'd had enough time to assimilate the information in the pre-conference talks, and they weren't able to ask the kind of questions that they really wanted to. So in 2026, we're planning just to have two talks available beforehand. One of those is going to be from Dr. Penny Hannant, who's going to be talking about her developmental profiling tool, which I'm really excited to hear more about, I have to say. And the other one is from Armand Fryett, who's going to be really bridging the gap between a lot of the content and the work of assessors. She's going to be looking at the implications of current views of literacy and maths for assessors and the assessment process.
That sounds amazing. So, as a team at Patos, we've put a
Mhm.
lot of thought into the theme for next year's conference, and that's been based on feedback from all of our members across the board. So, assessors, specialist teachers, Senkos, and anyone of our members that are working within educational settings. And it would be great to know what the conference is going to be like.
Well, I think what really drove us here was the fact that this is just such an interesting time in education. There are so many changes happening, and I'm not talking here just about those changes to definitions of dyslexia with the new Delphi definition and changes to our understanding of dyscalculia. We also have a new government in place. We've got changes to the curriculum coming up. We've got so much focus on supporting children and young people with SEN and the best ways to do that. So we wanted to explore some of the most cutting edge research from the most cutting edge researchers.
Mm.
And what we have included in the conference this year are projects that are really new to the extent that they're being worked on at the moment. We can't say precisely what our speakers are going to be saying because they're still working on it. The morning session is going to focus on the universal classroom. Now, that's the work of Professor Joel Talcott and his team, which includes Sue Gathercole and also Jo van Herwegen. Joel's going to deliver the keynote and he's going to be joined, and I think this is really exciting as well. He's going to be joined by teachers who've been involved in delivering the project in Wiltshire. So we've got a couple of Senkos who are part of the Wiltshire Learning Partnership, and we've also got a lady who is part of the advisory group from the Wiltshire Learning Partnership. They've all been involved in rolling out the Universal Classroom project. So they're going to be able to talk about their first-hand experience of that. the impact it's had on the students that they work with, the children that they work with, because these are youngsters, and the parents as well, the parents, the families.
Mm.
Also, in the morning, we're going to have Jo van Herwegen joining us. She's been involved both in the initial design of the project, but also its implementation in London, so she'll be able to give that perspective. And Penny Hannant is joining us in the morning as well to talk about how her developmental profiling tool links into the universal classroom, because I think there are some really interesting links there in the work that both teams have been doing. So for us to be able to encourage those speakers to make those links during the conference, I think will be really fascinating.
I think it will. And I think the fact that the research is still being, they're still doing the study and the research at the
Mm,
moment. So actually the findings that they're going to present in the conference will be absolutely current at that particular, that particular day in terms of what they've pulled through their sessions and what they're sharing with us, which is very, very exciting.
totally. I think it's just such a great thing to be able to offer people who are coming. You're going to be hearing this, this is new and fresh. You're the first people who are going
Absolutely.
to be hearing about it. So I
Yeah.
think that's wonderful.
I am very excited by it. So that's sort of the morning session. So
Mhm.
what can we expect from the afternoon session?
Okay, so in the afternoon, we're continuing that theme of developments in education. We're going to begin with a keynote presentation from Dr. Tim Mills. Now, Dr. Mills was chair of the group responsible for the recent Department for Education writing framework. And Tim's talk is called Is Writing Just Too Difficult? Now, I really like that title. I think it's quite cheeky. I think it's quite provocative. So I think we can expect a really insightful and thought provoking talk from Tim. That's going to be followed up by presentations from Professor Julia Carroll. I'm sure Julia is known to everybody who is going to be attending the conference. She's well known internationally on her work on reading difficulties, but also, of course, on the new Delphi definition of dyslexia. And we're going to be joined again by Professor Jo van Herwegen. This time, Jo is putting on her hat as Professor of Developmental Psychology and Education at UCL and her role as an expert in dyscalculia and maths difficulties. So she's going to be talking about how we view those and what successful interventions for maths difficulties might look like. And then we're going to have a panel discussion. And Sarah, you're in charge of that. So
I am. I'm very
what are you
much
looking
looking
forward
forward
to?
to it. So we are, as well as the speakers that Liz has just spoken about that will be speaking in the afternoon, we're also joined by Lynn Greenwald, and she will bring the perspective of sort of policy and government change and sort of where we're at that particular point. And again, that's evolving and changing. So, by the time we get to the conference, there'll be other things that aren't in place now that Lynn will be able to discuss that may be coming forward. And Armand Friat will be joining us in the afternoon and helping sort of assessors make those links and looking at how what they've learnt in the conference, in those live sessions, how that can be pulled across into diagnostic report writing and just making sure that that's funneled through and filtered through into the recommendations that are made using the most current up-to-date research that obviously we'll be discussing in the conference. So really exciting, I think. And what I'm most excited about, the fact it is live, that we are really hoping that the delegates that are attending will respond to that and we can get that lovely interaction where, the questions are based on what they've listened to that day and they can have time to reflect before the panels
Mhm.
and put questions forward to the speakers that really are relevant to them and their setting, and then encourage them to, following the conference, to reflect critically on how it can improve and develop their professional practice and ultimately the impact on the people that they work with and support. So
Mm.
really exciting day, and I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to the fact it's going to be live.
Absolutely. No, I agree completely. And especially, as you've just mentioned, the input from the delegates, I think, is fundamental. I really
Absolutely.
want everybody who's listening to this introduction and who's thinking about coming along on the day to carry that thought with them. A conference is what you bring to it.
Mm.
It's not a passive experience, is it? It's that sharing of ideas, it's sharing of questions, it's provoking new thoughts and ideas from the questions that you ask. So please, everybody, remember that you're an active part of the conference. What you bring to it makes what it is. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to delegate input as well.
Absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody there and and for the Patos staff as well, it's really important that we meet our members and non-members.
Yeah.
We get the opportunity to share these experiences together because we'll obviously be hearing the research and the findings at the same time as you, which is really exciting because it's live. And then obviously we take feedback from the conference and then we make the conference even better the following year. So that interaction is really important because ultimately the conference is for you, it's for our members, and we do our very best to develop themes that we think are going to be of interest. So we really hope that you take on board the change to the conference and come with wanting to interact and not just sit there and listen, but really interact, really engage, really ask those questions that have been bothering you or that you've always wanted to ask, and pull that and help us make this a really successful conference. So we really look forward to seeing you, and the booking page is available, so please book.
Thanks, Sarah.